The podcast press coverage of the Assembia 2026 Summit is brought to you by Perigon Pharmacy 360. Powered by the innovative Modesto Health Platform, where specialty pharmacy meets real-time patient intelligence. Perigon 360 is redefining pharmacy care by combining high-touch clinical support with advanced digital health technology. At the center of this model is Modesto, a clinical intelligence platform that works for both the care team and the patient simultaneously. On the clinical side, pharmacists get a unified patient record, auto-generated care plans, and real-time insights that automatically surface at-risk patients before gaps in care occur. On the patient side, automated and event-driven engagement keeps patients informed, on therapy, and directly connected to their care team from day one. No manual outreach required. The result? Less manual work for clinicians, fewer gaps for patients, and clinical data that gets smarter with every interaction. This unified ecosystem closes critical gaps in care, accelerating time to therapy, improving persistence, and delivering measurable outcomes across specialty and chronic conditions. But what truly sets Perigon apart is its ability to bring the pharmacist directly into the patient's daily life, turning insights into action and data into better care. As specialty pharmacy continues to evolve, Perigon Pharmacy 360 and Modesto are leading the way, bridging technology, clinical care, and patient engagement. Learn more at paragonpharmacy.org.
You are listening to the global network of podcasters dedicated to the pharmacy profession. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Each year, Assembia's Specialty Pharmacy Summit is at the epicenter of the pharmacy industry, providing a unique opportunity for stakeholders throughout the industry to understand challenges, generate solutions, and define the future. This is the Pharmacy Podcast Network's Assembia 2026 Rewind. We're dedicated to bringing you inside coverage of the pharmacy nation's biggest events, with on-the-street style interviews, with keynote speakers, attendees, exhibitors, and recurring guests who make each year special. Stay tuned each week for a new episode of this special 6-part series on the Assembia 2026 Summit, held this year in Las Vegas. Special thanks to this episode's sponsor, Perigon 360.
This is Chris Antypas with Perigon Pharmacy 360, and you're listening to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Chris Antypas, Assembia 2026. It's so good to see you here. Fellow Pittsburgher, let's go.
Let's go. We got those pens tonight. I can't wait to hopefully see them extend the series.
They won yesterday, or they won the last game.
They did. We're now down 3-2, so we're still fighting for our lives. But we win tonight, we go to Game 7, and then anything can happen.
That's the Pittsburgh story.
Yeah,
it's always the underdogs.
That's right.
All right. Imagine an ecosystem that gives a pharma manufacturer the assurance that you have a patient on a pathway designed with all the guardrails in place to assure that you're doing what you need to be doing as a specialty pharmacy to give back to them the data of what's happening to that patient in their lives. But better yet, you start customizing that journey depending on the drug, depending on the treatment, and you surround them with technology, you surround them with communications, follow-up. That is the Perigon 360 in a nutshell from a layman's perspective. But I want you to open up about that. I want you to talk to our listeners, our pharma manufacturers, payers that are listening, other specialty pharmacies. And there's a new market out there. There's the independent community pharmacy who's looking to partner with an organization that can execute specialty pharmacy services. So that's something else we can talk about. But talk to us about Perigon 360 and that special sweet sauce you guys developed.
Yeah, so Perigon is what we describe as a technology forward or a digital specialty pharmacy. And we have dubbed ourselves a digital pharmacy because we've built tools internally to help alter the existing paradigm of how we interact with patients. In the specialty pharmacy space, there's just a ton of manual effort, and there's a lot of waiting for patients to respond, waiting for a provider to respond. So we kind of took our fate into our own hands and decided to build out technology that we could layer on top of our pharmacy management system that can close those gaps. And so by having a highly innovative patient engagement solution combined with a dashboard that gives the pharmacy unique perspectives into a given patient's journey and their experience, we can then automate a ton of meaningful interactions, both with the patient and with the provider. So we're using the latest and greatest in technology. We use a progressive web application to interact with the patient, and we create automated journeys. Things that would need to be done manually by a person, we can trigger automatically. So we use triggers, which could be pharmacy receives a referral or a prescription for a given medication, automatically reach out to the patient, give them the onboarding information, and start retrieving the information you need from them to get that patient on therapy quickly. And then, let's say the medication requires prior auth. Our platform, we call it Modesto, is connected into EHR. So we can pull medical information directly from the EHR, medical history, medication history, labs, vitals, etc., and we can expedite getting that drug approved for the patient by completing a prior auth or appeal, for example, and then keeping the patient informed automatically along the way. We also have ability to communicate with providers directly into their EHR. So if some information is missing or we have an issue, instead of calling and leaving a message and waiting hours or days or longer for a callback, the physician can respond through their EHR where they live every single day caring for their patients, and we can automate the ingestion of their response back into our system. So we're looking at how do we leverage technology in ways that can not only expedite a process that can be laborious and challenging, but also make the experience better and more enjoyable for the patient. At the core of our concept is, as I said, automation, and we also believe that there's an opportunity in pharmacy for the pharmacist to take accountability and ownership for the outcomes of the medications we dispense. And so by leveraging this surveillance capability, we're automating clinical assessments to patients, ingesting that data, marrying that with their medical information and the pharmacy information we already have. We can determine if a given patient is on track for their therapy or they're not on track. And for patients that aren't on track or they have an issue that pops up, we create alerts and our clinical team can jump on that. So if you're thinking about it from a payer perspective, they obviously care how much the drug costs, but even if they got a good deal on that drug, if it's not working for the patient, we call that waste. And maybe it's not working because the patient isn't storing it correctly. Maybe they're not using it correctly. Maybe they're having an adverse event that's causing them to slow down and not use it as it's prescribed. Maybe they're not on the right dose. I mean, I could go on, but number one, somebody needs to be looking for that, and then somebody needs to step up and do something about it. That's what we're doing at Perigon, and it's all possible because we're leveraging technology and automation to remove noise of stuff that doesn't need our attention and present us with the elements that are really relevant to the patient first and foremost, but also their provider, the drug manufacturer, the payer, and so on. So we're really excited. I mean, we've had a lot of conversations here at Assembia, and everyone we've talked to has said, we've not seen this elsewhere. And so we're really getting some market validation that we've got something unique, but more than unique is meaningful, because I would say when you put your patient first, it's hard to go wrong. Yeah. And I know that the industry, we often get hung up on money and how do we make more money, and everybody cares about money, which I get. I run a business and you got to make money to have a successful business. But we want the money to come as a side effect of taking care of people. And that's our philosophy at Perigon. And we are well on our way and appreciate the opportunity to kind of share a little bit about what we're doing with the world.
Proud of this coming out of a city that was the birthplace of specialty pharmacy. You guys are taking it up in a whole nother notch and level. Where does the standards fit into this? Because you guys sound like you're way over the standards that like a URAC or an ACH would like put into place. And then how does REMS reporting fit into back to the manufacturer?
So the standards, the accreditation bodies, we're URAC and ACHC accredited, and they do set a standard for clinical care. It's hard to meet those standards when you have to do everything manually. And so we've leveled it up because we automate the stuff that can be automated, and it allows us not to evaluate a care plan on an annual basis, but every single time we touch the patient, or at least quarterly, where we have new information, and with that new information, it may alter our care plan. It may alter the things that we should be looking at or the interventions we should be deploying for a patient. So from that perspective, we just leverage automation to give us the ability to do more. And every pharmacist I talk to wants to do more, but it's a lot of work to just dispense a drug. So you can't focus on the stuff you want to do when you got to get the stuff done that you need to get done in order for your business to survive. So this is where the efficiencies just unlock tremendous potential. And as it pertains to REMS, it's a similar scenario. What is the risk? What is the variable? Is it a lab value? Well, guess what? We're tied into the EHR. So if the lab value is missing, we can make sure we get it before we dispense. If the lab variable is elevated or low or whatever the concerning metric might be, we can call timeout before we dispense it. And we obviously know that there's hesitation to rely solely on automation. At the end of the day, leverage the automation and the technology to create the alerts, and then put the human component into it as well. But from a REMS perspective, leveraging technology has, I think, tremendous benefit to, same deal, reduce unnecessary manual labor where they could get it wrong, for example.
Has Perigon 360 Pharmacy, have you decided, hey, let's become champions in these specific disease states, or have you become really good at doing certain things, and now you're expanding to a whole bunch of different medications that you're helping to manage?
I describe us kind of like a stem cell that hasn't quite differentiated yet. I know that some pharmacies focus on one disease state, and that's kind of their niche, and we haven't gone that route. We have a lot of experience across a number of disease states and therapies and therapeutic categories. We do have experience in rare and ultra-rare diseases. We have experience with the drive-by model in cell and gene therapy. We have ultra-cold chain freezers, and we also do some non-specialty dispensing out of Perigon for certain partners that we have. We very well could, quote-unquote, differentiate to being more specific in a particular category, but we haven't really come across an area where we feel we should pull away from one category or the other and focus on it. So we're still pretty diverse in our capabilities, but we have experience in some niche areas that demonstrate our capabilities. If a given partner is looking for our advanced technology capabilities, we can jump in and I think meet their needs and hopefully exceed their expectations, actually.
There's health systems, hospitals out there throughout the country who are making hard decisions based on getting into specialty, and they're deciding, are we building this ourselves or are we partnering with somebody? Does Perigon 360 Pharmacy, are you in a position where you might go to a small health system and say, let us just do this for you?
We could, absolutely. I mean, I think it all comes down to just philosophical and strategic alignment. The health systems are, a lot of them have gone down the road, built out specialty pharmacies. There are organizations that I think you work with as well that help build out specialty pharmacies for health systems. The right opportunity, we could absolutely do that. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're seeing from a technology perspective, and we are actually Modesto as a technology platform that we have built and basically given an opportunity to flourish under the Perigon brand. We do license that technology, and we are making that available. So a health system pharmacy may be very interested in leveraging the technology that we have to improve their operational efficiencies improve their clinical oversight, again, from an automation perspective. So that is an area where we could absolutely partner with a health system that is looking to optimize the investment, because it is a big investment to get into specialty. And so we actually have some of those ongoing conversations right now.
So when you talk about this unique model that you have, and I've meticulously kind of gone through over the years fascinated by Perigon 360 and what you guys have built, what advantage does that put in place for the development of more communication, better communication with the patient, so that you can go back to a payer and not allow the payer to really bully the system? And when I say bully the system, you know as better than I do that some payers, some PBMs make it really, really hard to keep patients, to get them on the medication, to keep them on the medication.
Sure.
When you guys have such rich from end-to-end services and care and standards and validity, all of that, is it easier to tell the payer, hey, we're going to do it this way because it's in the best interest of the patient, and your standard way of rejection, and it's easier to get around it because of what
Sure.
you guys are doing?
I think that our big success with the payer conversations is related to oversight of medication outcomes.
Okay.
So the narrative in the industry right now is fixated on drug cost. Everybody wants the lowest cost. How do I get that drug for cheaper? Mark Cuban has made a lot of noise because he's able to help cut out waste.
And he doesn't understand specialty pharmacy.
Well, I wouldn't even
Every
say...
time I hear him talk about it, he's like,
Yeah.
there's nothing special about specialty. And I'm like, quit saying that.
I think that and I have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, I do too.
At the same time, he doesn't talk about clinical. And we've relegated the pharmacy to a vending machine. Wherever I can, they're all the same, and I'm interested in going to the vending machine that is the cheapest, right? I want the drug for the lowest cost. And I agree that there's value in cost, but what I say I do some work in the employer-sponsored plan space, in the self-funded employer space. A good discount on a drug that doesn't work is not a good deal. So what if you save 50%? If the drug doesn't work, it's a waste, even at 50%. So who is taking ownership of making sure that drug works? And who is jumping in to do something about it when we see that the drug is not working? Drugs are approved by the FDA. No drug, or maybe most, if not all drugs, do not benefit 100% of the patients in the clinical trial. Not everybody, even in the most tight of kind of controlled environments, not everybody benefits. So then once it gets into the real world, it's even less likely to benefit everybody. However, we don't think about it that way. We think that as long as we do a prior authorization and make sure that they're an appropriate candidate, we just assume that the drug is going to help them. We have the ability to hedge that the investment in that drug, whatever that investment is going to give a return. And at the end of the day, the patient may need moved to another therapy. Should we wait 6 months until they get to their doctor's appointment for their doctor to realize that they should be switched to another drug? Or should we find out now? Because paying for 6 months of therapy at $10,000 a month, you've just thrown away $60,000. So when we have this type of conversation with payers, it just changes the dynamic. And the fact that we have gone directly to some self-funded employer plans, and that nobody's talking about this in the market. They're all talking about low-cost drugs, discounts, et cetera. We think we're going to break through and totally disrupt this paradigm, because we have a mousetrap that not only does this clinical oversight, but it's enjoyable from the patient's perspective. I describe it as utilization management disguised as really good pharmacy care. And we're proving that out. We're getting a lot of traction, and we're excited to kind of disrupt this market and really demonstrate that pharmacists are more than just gatekeepers of the vending machine. We can help patients be successful on a therapy. And when we use technology, we can achieve it, because it's really impossible to do manually for every single patient you serve. So that's kind of our angle in that regard.
All right, so talk about the patient communication. And they're in a therapy, they're going to be on for some time, maybe for the rest of their life. What kind of communication's happening between Perigon 360 Pharmacy and the patient?
Yeah, so it starts with onboarding and welcoming them, right? Because in the general sense, pharmacies engage with their patients all the time, right? I have a product in my possession, and I need to get it to you. So I have something you need, and I need to get it in your hands. You could, in a community pharmacy, they just come to the pharmacy, but most or many community pharmacies also deliver. So there's a coordination of, I got to call you, I got to talk to you, and do this type of logistical navigation of getting you this product and doing it compliantly, right? And so we're leveraging our patient engagement solution to coordinate the logistics of getting you your meds. And then we sprinkle in that discussion, that forum, if you will, we sprinkle in education. Patients want to know if they can track the status of their pizza from Domino's, they can track the status of their delivery from Amazon. You'd think we could track the status of their prescription, right? Especially an expensive prescription that is life-saving. We early on, my partner Dan Asti and I talk about, a patient is, especially for our oncology patients, the medication we're delivering to them, I describe it as like hope in a box, okay? They have a devastating diagnosis. They're scared. They view this drug as potentially saving their life, or even more intense, saving the life of their loved one. All right? So you're waiting for this box to show up. You want to get it in your system so that you can potentially save your life. It'll save your life. We approach our patient interactions with that in mind. Like, to us, it's just another bottle of medicine. To the patient, it's literally their hopes and dreams, walking down the aisle with their daughter at their wedding, at her wedding. And so we can ease their concerns by being transparent about the status of what's going on. Just letting them know, even if it's going to take time, it's better to be aware than to not have any idea and just be sitting on the edge of your chair. So transparent communications about the status of their prescription. Again, it's impossible for me to do that manually on every patient, but if the system is tracking this and just sending communications, they're like, great, appreciate the update. You then interject into that experience with like, hey, I have a few questions to ask you, how you're doing. And make it personal. Hey, it's Chris checking in on you about your condition. And then, again, letting them know, hey, you're coming up due for your medicine, just making sure everything's all right. If you need anything, let me know. Can we get this scheduled so you can get your medicine next week? Does Tuesday work? You can think of like how we can, again, sprinkle in the clinical oversight with the logistical element of what we do on a daily basis. And then that just continues on, and it becomes a normal part of their experience. They have direct, immediate access to their pharmacist when they need them. They're getting the information they need and want. It just becomes just good. And we don't want there to be peaks and troughs. We want there to just be standard. The patient is comfortable, they're good, their issues are being addressed, but always in the background, we are looking over their care and identifying if there's an issue, we're going to jump in and help support them. And you need to do that one time for a patient for them to realize you're really there for me. I really feel, and you know how trusted pharmacists are. Patients love their pharmacists, but you also got to build a relationship with them, and we do that. We incorporate that into this digital experience. It's not, it'd be a shame for anybody to think that we don't care about personal interactions. We do, but at the same time, like, not every single thing needs to be personal for it to feel personal. It's just kind of have an appropriate dose of that to just maximize that feeling on the patient side and truly take responsibility for the role that we play in getting them their medicine. That, as I said, some conditions are going to be more intense than others, but when it comes to oncology, for example, like, we really need to own the responsibility of being in their care, delivering them these life-saving medicines.
Dr. Chris Antypas, Perigon 360 Pharmacy, thanks so much for being on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, my friend.
This is Chris Corsi with CassianRx, and you're listening to the Pharmacy Podcast.
One Journey, a streamlined specialty care platform, has just been launched by CassianRx. We're bringing this to you at the Assembia 2026 post show. I'm here with Chris Corsi. Chris, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you, Todd. It's always fun being out here at Assembia.
It is. This is I think it's my 11th Assembia. How many Assembias is this
I think I'm at number 7 or 8. I can't keep track.
Do you like being one of the old guys now, where you're becoming a veteran in this space? Because I know we both feel probably like, I feel 20 years younger than what I am, and I still come to this. I come to this with that sparkly eye excitement, and I feel the same, not as awestruck as I was when I first came, but this still gets me going. What do you think of Assembia?
You feel that way after the 30,000 steps 3 days in a row still?
Yeah, I'm still jazzed up.
No, I agree with you. It's a Super Bowl of specialty pharmacy, right? Everyone's out here. You have great talks. Everyone's talking about cutting-edge technology. You got a great exhibit hall with all these different vendors out here, all of these different manufacturers out here launching new products. I mean, where's a better conference than this, right?
Yes, exactly. Let's talk about that technology. So you've launched something called One Journey, and this is designed to streamline specialty care. Let's get into that. Let's talk about and unpack that. What's this platform about?
Yeah. One Journey is an orchestration layer that sits above all of the other platforms. And the idea is to create that one journey for all of the different stakeholders in the ecosystem, your pharmacies, your patients, your manufacturers, your payers, and your providers, right? So we all have one source of truth of what is actually going on for that journey, for that patient, and try to personalize that for each individual stakeholder so that we're all on the same page, and we're maximizing our engagement, we're maximizing our understanding, we're maximizing our turnaround times and time to therapy, because we know that improves all of these different outcomes for those patients as well.
All right. Is there limitations to the bolt-in? If I have an infusion pharmacy segment, I have a traditional pharmacy segment under specialty, is there any limitations to the sectors that you're plugging in?
No, not really, Todd. Honestly, you can kind of think about it as a hub service infrastructure platform in a sense, where we have some hubs that are white labeling the platform. We have a lot of top 15 specialty pharmacies utilizing the platform as well, and a ton of IDNs that also utilize the platform for pretty much all specialty disease states. So when you think about it from a therapeutic area perspective, it's pretty agnostic there. And what's really nice is you can really customize your programs yourself in a low-code, no-code type environment. So it gives you the control to build out your program how you want it to be.
How has the One Journey system pulled our patients closer to the provider? Mm-hmm. Because there's mention in the press release where that patient engagement is sped up, and it's brought closer to the workflow.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about existing systems, right? I mean, your pharmacy and care teams are really divided, right? You have your physicians, they're working in their EMR and they're working on their own thing, and then you have your patients that go into the docs and are saying, hey, I'm prescribed this specialty medication. Great, it's going to come. They leave that office and have no idea for days, weeks, what's going on. And then you have your pharmacist, you got the script on the back end, and they're working in their own silo. And they're like, hey, I got to get the script out to the patient, right? I got to get a PA through. Oh, man, I got to contact the physician's office. I need this information, right? It's all just so fragmented, and there's a million phone calls flying back and forth, people trying to understand what's going on. So when you pull all of those stakeholders into the ecosystem and give them a one source of truth, right, on that one journey, it really gives that patient visibility early on into where they're at in the journey. It keeps the physicians updated as to where that script is actually at and what stage we're in. And it also, creates that collaborative environment so that everyone's focused on the right goal. Like, what is that patient's goal of the therapy, right? It might be getting to their son's wedding in a month. Yeah. Right?
Exactly.
What is that goal? And keeping everyone in alignment there.
So you've used the standardizations that are already out there to be used. FHIR, for example, which is to deliver a broader cross-system through the exchange of data. Talk to our listeners about how that plugs into the One Journey system.
Yeah, we're very integration friendly. I always like to say, and I've been saying it for probably 5 years now, Cassian One Journey is the most integration friendly company you'll probably come to meet and talk to. Whether it's Fire, HL7, APIs, SFTPs, whatever you need to do to get the data in the right place and get that into the right state, we're going to make it happen. We've done it in a million different possible configuration setups, workflows. So really, from any perspective that you need there, we can adapt and build those workflows and layers there and integrations.
So the first workflow system that I remember learning about, quite confusing, extremely expensive. I think I call it like the OG of workflow systems for specialty was Theragy. And then a couple more started coming out. Even Assembia even jumped into the game with Assembia 1, backing this into hub services. Hub services was such a buzzword 6-7 years ago. I don't even hear that terminology as much. I mean, it's still there, but I think everybody's gotten used to it. So when we're talking about manufacturer and rebating and like the GPO side, are there components of One Journey that is APIing into other systems like that might touch on inventory?
Yeah, so that's the next step of the process, right? We're really looking at it as a technology infrastructure where if you wanted to stand up a hub, say internally from a manufacturer perspective, or if you're trying to turn your specialty pharmacy services into leading cutting edge overnight, right, type services, differentiated services, or you are a hub service provider today running on some legacy fragmented platforms with 5 different point solutions to have patient, physician engagement, workflow management, call center, right? At a certain point, if you want to take the step up and leverage AI, you need to have a unified base foundation. You can't build AI on a fragmented 7-point solution product. It just won't work. The data integration isn't there to enable those agents and those AI patterns to actually flow and be useful.
I'm glad you brought it up. Let's talk AI. Buzzword here. Everyone that I'm talking to has a different version of how they're leveraging AI, artificial intelligence, to really standardize, find data fast, find, accessing things, making the prior authorizations more seamless. How has One Journey implemented AI into your systems?
Yeah. I mean, AI is a great thing, but it's something that you need to figure out where it fits, right? Sure. From our perspective, right, we kind of think about it as where does an agent make sense? I think in the most cases it is, on workflow type progression activities, right? Anything that's clinical, medical, all that kind of stuff, that needs to stick to humans. But progressing like some statuses, submitting some forms, that type of stuff is great for agents that are low-hanging type fruits that you can automate. And I like to think of agents when you build them out and put them in the ecosystem for each step, right? Hey, there should be one for the benefits verification process. There should be one for the PA process. There should be one for the patient journey and the goal setting, right? There should be one for continuing communications and coordination between your physician and your pharmacy, right? You can kind of start thinking about like those operations and where does one make sense to build an agent and give them that right skill set and tool set. So that's how Cassian and One Journey thinks about AI, and that's where we started building out our AI agents and infrastructure there. And it's not something you need to jump in the deep end on day one and make One Journey like, hey, if I'm not adopting AI useful, you can really even just use it from a base case. And I like to use the walk or crawl, walk, run, right, methodology of, hey, first you need to unify the data, right? If your data is fragmented in 7 different systems, man, you shouldn't even be worried about AI yet, because you don't even have the base foundation to start thinking about it and making it useful. So that's like step 1 of just deploying that infrastructure layer of the One Journey platform. Step 2 is really understanding those patterns, right? And each pharmacy is going to have, let's say, or hub or manufacturer is going to have probably 60-70% overlap typically of what those patterns are. And the real value is in that 20-30% that are different, right? Identifying them and finding them. And you really need to run that foundational platform for, time to find out what those patterns are and see it in the data and actually evolve through the data set. Once you find those patterns, then you can layer on the agents to accelerate and execute against those patterns. And that's, now you're really running, right? I've built the data foundation. I've found out what my common patterns are, and I've now built the agents on it that can exploit those patterns and really give me those operational efficiencies or outcome efficiencies or whatever you're looking for. I think a lot of people are trying to jump to the end. Yeah. Hey, let's get there to the end. Let's throw in some agents and let's do it. And I think people are struggling and coming up short a couple of times there and saying, hey, maybe it doesn't really work as well as we thought it was going to be because they skipped step 1 and 2.
Yeah. All right. I'm a pharmacy operator, VP of technology, or the pick in charge of my specialty pharmacy. Sometimes I don't even know what I don't know and how to assess, do I need this system? Give us some examples of some red flags that you're like, hey, if you're going through this, you should schedule a demo with us because we'll take you through how CassianRx is going to implement the One Journey system and really help you not only stabilize and improve, but help you with growth.
Yeah. I would say if you're in any of those areas, at a pharmacy, at a hub, at a manufacturer, and you're looking at, hey, I have 7-point solutions, and none of the data works together. Yeah. Biggest red flag, probably right there out of the gate. Number 2, maybe you have some solutions and none of the data is unified, right, at all. Or 3, maybe you have a data lake, right? Hey, I've done the first step. I've unified my data. I can't take any action on it though, right? That's your next red flag. And a couple people have gotten to that stage of, hey, I've unified it. I have these data lakes. I'm using these great products. But 24-hour lag or multiple day lag. If that's another big red flag, right? If these things aren't near real time, that's another red flag. There's no reason at this point in this industry that data cannot be near real time. Mm-hmm. If you have a 1, 2, 3, 5 week lag, there's no reason for it. The technology infrastructure is there commercially. Why are we not giving our patients the best, right? True.
I like that. Chris Corsi, CassianRx, we're going to hear more from you. We have a special 3-part series that we're so excited about producing and helping you to push out through the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Are you able to give us just a little hint in what we're going to be moving through?
Yeah. The 3-part series is going to be awesome. We're trying to really pull those different stakeholders in, right? That's the whole point of One Journey. Create that one unified window for everybody. So we're going to have our pharmacists come in. We're going to have our physicians come in. We're going to have some patients potentially as well come in and give their perspective of what that One Journey is, right? And how are we pulling everyone together, and how is that improving the experience, the quality of life, the patient satisfaction, the turnaround time, right? For all these different stakeholders and getting it from each different vantage point, right? Cool. Not just from a pharmacist, not just from a manufacturer, but from everyone in the ecosystem and how it's all working together. It'll be a really cool experience and series.
That's a testimony to the actual One Journey philosophy anyway, is exactly what you just said. All right, you heard it here first at the Assembia 2026 post-show press coverage with Chris Corsi from CassianRx. Learn more, CassianRx.com. Can't wait to talk with you and have you on. Oh, we're going to get you on Twerks too again.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
This year's Assembia 2026 press coverage is sponsored by PantherRx Rare Pharmacy. At PantherRx, every day is Rare Disease Day. As the largest independent specialty pharmacy dedicated exclusively to rare and orphan conditions, their mission is simple but powerful. Empower patients to live fuller lives through personalized, compassionate care. Through their innovative rare care model, PantherRx delivers hyper-personalized support across the entire patient journey, connecting patients, prescribers, manufacturers, and payers with seamless access to life-changing therapies. Their expert teams go beyond dispensing medication. They provide clinical guidance, financial assistance coordination, prior authorization support, and ongoing patient engagement, ensuring that individuals living with rare and complex conditions are never navigating care alone. With nationwide reach, industry-leading patient satisfaction, and a relenting focus on innovation, PantherRx continues to set the standard for what specialty pharmacy should be. We hope you find value in the podcast coverage of the Assembia 2026 Summit, the Super Bowl of specialty pharmacy, where PantherRx Rare is helping redefine access and the future of rare disease care. Learn more at PantherXRare.com. That's pantherxrare.com.
Hi, this is Kristen Roy. I am the Director of Product Management at Inovalon, and you're listening to the Pharmacy Podcast.
Welcome to the Assembia 2026 press. I always say press podcast or podcast press coverage of the show. This is so good to see you.
Nice to see you too. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for doing this. So I kind of wanted to start off with just a general question for our listeners that didn't get to come. What do you think of Assembia? Like, what is your experience at Assembia? How many Assembias have you gone to? What do you like coming to this conference?
So I think I have been to at least 10 Assembias.
Me too.
I love the energy at Assembia. I specifically love the energy here in the in this large room that we're in with all of the different booths. So I like learning about the different businesses that are out there and what they're doing. I just went to a couple of CEs, so I love that it's sort of well-rounded. I can get a little bit of CE in, but I can also hear what's going on in the industry.
Absolutely. I want to know a little bit more about you. So this is the first time that we've had an opportunity to meet. Talk to me about yourself and your role at Inovalon and what you do in specialty pharmacy.
Sure. So I am a pharmacist by trade, and over at Inovalon, I consider myself to be sort of the customer on the inside, if you will. So I actually used Inovalon's pharmacy management system called ScriptMed from about 2009 to 2016 in different roles. So I started out at Briova, which is a specialty pharmacy that got acquired by Optum in 2016. Okay. Throughout that time, I started as a staff pharmacist, so I used it right there on the keyboard doing all the work. And then I eventually moved into a regional director role, overseeing 6 pharmacies. So then I had to use the system from more of a strategic reporting and how do I move my business around, things like that. So when a role opened up here, I've only been here about 18 months, I was really excited because that way I can have influence on the pharmacy management system from all kinds of levels, which is great.
Something that I've noticed that you wrote about, and I'm glad that you're here because I wanted this answered anyway, so now I'm getting 2 things out of this podcast. And that is, there's a fusion between specialty and infusion pharmacies, to use the word infusion twice in a sentence, and it's driving a shift. And what do you think that means for how care is delivered across those settings?
So I think from the patient perspective, it means continuity of care, longitudinal care for them. I think for the provider, it's going to make things easier too. So if a pharmacy can service a patient from when they come out of a retail setting into the specialty setting as their disease state progresses, and then potentially they have to go into an infusion setting for, let's say, like a flare-up. So a really good example of this is a patient with maybe Crohn's disease. So typically they start out taking a oral medication at a retail setting. They're told to kind of adjust their diet, but things happen. They age, stress gets more as they grow older, and so that disease progresses to needing a specialty pharmacy that can give them a medication they can self-inject. And then they may have a flare. And so they may need to go into an infusion pharmacy to get like a bolus dose, a larger or a more concentrated dose of the medication they've been self-injecting, but at a higher concentration, just for a short period of time. And then they may flip right back to just needing to self-inject again. And so for the patient to be able to go between those 2 types of models, that's what's happening. That's the crossover that's happening. But really, there haven't been great systems to help with that crossover back and forth. And so patients see it as fragmented care. Providers sometimes see it that way too. They wrote a prescription to the specialty pharmacy. It's the same drug. So to the provider, it's like you go into the infusion space, I already wrote that prescription, I just need to increase the dose. But they have to write a whole new prescription to the infusion pharmacy. And then when they go back, they almost always have to write another one as well. So it's really helping, I think, as that shift is being apparent to us as an industry, and we're trying to build some support around that. It really helps patients and providers, and then the pharmacies as well, to do their work a little bit more efficiently.
All right, so as those therapies become they become more and more complex, and they span multiple care settings. What capabilities do pharmacies need from their technology platform to better coordinate that care and manage patients?
So absolutely, they need a system that's going to be able to push information from the specialty pharmacy to their infusion pharmacy, or if the specialty pharmacy is owned, owns both, they need the system to be able to seamlessly push information about the patient back and forth. They need to be able to have an interoperable relationship with the EMR and the EHR, and that includes getting labs, and that includes getting other medications maybe the patient might be taking in the retail setting. So it's really getting that full picture of the patient all in one place. That can really help drive efficiency with the conversation with the patient, with the conversation with the provider. They need a system where they can easily have conversations with the provider's office, whether that be the prescriber or the nurse in the field that might be doing the injection at the infusion site. So that's something that's sort of been lacking. They've been in two different systems, and maybe they're not connected. And maybe they can still be two different companies, but the two have to somehow connect so that that information is seamless.
All right, so artificial intelligence, that's all people seem to be talking about, but it has to make sense. It can't just be science fiction. It has to be applicable, has to be proven. There has to be standards in place to make sure that it's all head of guidelines and keeping patients safe. So when you're looking ahead, what do you see as the biggest opportunity and challenge for specialty pharmacy, let's say in the next 3 to 5 years?
Sure. So I do see, I've gone to a couple of sessions while I've been here about AI and how that gets adopted, if you will, into the software, into actually using it. Where are we going to use it? How are we going to use it? How do we keep patient information secure? When do we need to tell patients that we're using it, or providers that we're using it? And so a couple of the sessions that I've been to, which is really great, was enlightening that the federal government doesn't seem to be giving any guidance right now. And so the 50 states are all coming up with their own guidance, which is great, but it's really hard to keep track of.
Sure.
So I think not only is there a challenge for specialty pharmacies in terms of how you're going to use AI, how you're going to apply it, and how you're going to keep it secure, but how are you going to keep up with all 50 states and what their regulations are, right? So I think that's a big challenge. I think also the regulatory bodies that exist today, you think ACHC, URAC, even NCPDP that puts out a lot of the standards for specialty pharmacies, or any pharmacies really. How are all three of those seeing AI and what needs to be done, and then can they all come together? Right, to try to, I think as an industry, this is a great opportunity for us to all come together and sit down and figure out how we're going to do this so that it's not disparate, and we're not just, individual states have different rules or regulations around that. From the pharmacy system standpoint, I think it's really important that we figure out how AI is actually going, what's the best benefit, right? Is it in the patient-facing, I'm talking to you, or the phone tree that currently exists today? Is it in the text messaging? Is it in the provider communication on the portal? Is it, how does that all work? I think that's a challenge we still have to unfold. But what a great time to be in this space, right? To be solving those problems.
It really is. It really is. And we've seen a lot of things change. Think about when you graduated, if you could have jettisoned to the future of right now, and you could have shown yourself what you'd be doing, it would have blown your mind.
Oh,
just
absolutely.
To see how it changed.
Absolutely. If you had asked me, so I've always been an operator pharmacist. I absolutely love the process of pharmacy. I love making the process smoother. I actually started out as a pharmacy technician before I went to pharmacy school.
Wow.
I was a tech for about 5 years. There's a joke that I went to pharmacy school kicking and screaming. But if you had asked me then if I would have done anything different other than retail, I would have told you absolutely no. So to be where I'm at now and to be able to influence the software directly that can help make that process smoother, I would not have told you this is where I would have been.
Wow, that is so cool.
It's really crazy.
Dr. Kristen Roy, thank you so much for spending time with us here at the Assembia 2026 Post Show.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Todd. It was really great talking to you.
Hello, this is Robert Ojeda from K&B Pharmacy Associates.
Robert, it's great to have you here in the press podcast booth here at Assembia 2026. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very good. I want to shout out Nicole McClure. Thank you. She's been with us at the booth all week here from Finch, helping us to put this interview together. There is a common friend who you've known for 21 years now, Dr. Ty and 986 Pharmacies, and his dedication to not only his patients, but his community and the profession. And I'm just proud to know him. So shout out to Ken Ty.
Yes, thank you very much. I've had the pleasure to know Ken for a few years now. Like you had mentioned, 21 years. We initially started our organization as practicing, owning, and operating independent pharmacy, and branched out to different segments in our own business, and then evolved that into what we see today for K&B Pharmacy Associates, where we're truly helping out and assisting the independent pharmacy space, whether you're retail, long-term care, specialty, or everything else in between, in all different segments. So grateful to be part of this journey. This journey has definitely been an exciting one for the past few years over at K&B, and we're excited to see what the future holds.
All right, so talk to me about, when I first got into pharmacy in 2004, there were very, very hardened silos between long-term care, retail community, specialty, infusion. Those silos are all starting to blend. So talk to me at K&B and what you guys are doing. Now you're getting deeper into specialty. So talk to us about that.
We've been in the specialty for quite some time, but It's definitely evolved, or we've taken a deeper dive into it. And to your point, it's this evolution in pharmacy practice that we've seen I'm going to call it a melting pot between, or crossing over from retail to specialty to long-term care. And it's aligning ourselves with the right partners to truly test the waters at our own stores, first and foremost, before it's rolled out to anyone else. So that way, if things go awry for some reason, I could only look at myself in the mirror and my partners in the face, and we could blame each other. So I do that wholeheartedly for the fact that we truly test products, we test new opportunities or technology within our own organization first and foremost before it's rolled out. And I think that makes it a very unique scenario for K&B to be practicing what we preach in our messaging and how we communicate and support those that may have a question in getting involved into an LTC at home program, or getting involved in the long-term care space, fully in the space. If they have questions about assisted living or skilled nursing, or what those compliance levels look like, we always can take a step back and reflect upon what we do in our own practices.
When once again, to sound like the old guys that we are now in comparison to what it was like 20, 30 years ago.
We're still young. We're still young.
We're still young. Let's keep saying that. So the prescription, to me, back in the day, seemed like it was the focal point. Today, it's no longer the focal point because we're doing other things to generate income and to generate value for people in our communities that have nothing to do necessarily with the prescription itself. Well, it could have something to do with the therapy, because you might put somebody on a DME, walker or something, or you might give them a supplement, or you might suggest something. But talk to me about everything except the prescription and the future of pharmacy, and where value and care is much more evident than, let's say, what it was 20 years ago.
One of the first things I look at is workflow and operating cost. I can tell you from the numerous or hundreds or thousands of conversations I've had over my tenure, is we are now taking a much further dive, not at the prescription, but how we ended up to the point of delivery to a patient and what those needs are. And you would be surprised to say that there's a lot of inefficiencies that occur in the marketplace today. even why we're here at Assembia, we are looking at different technology pieces to increase our efficiencies in our own workspace. So I would say that first and foremost, I always take a step back and look at what those workflow processes are, even to the point where minimizing footsteps from clerk to pharmacy tech to getting it verified by the pharmacist and sending it back. What are the efficiencies or lack thereof when we assess an operation? And we'll do that. I mean, we do that at our own stores now.
That's cool. Reminds me of the UPS study that was done on the seatbelt click and then turning on the ignition at the same time, and how they added up how many seconds that they were saving, and it meant hours, and that's wild.
So you take that with technology and you build in technology into those efficiencies. You take a look at logistics and create logistics efficiencies, and that compiles to the end user or creating a better margin at the store level.
Let's talk about the human in all of this, the person, the patient. What does K&B Pharmacies do to bring more, the focal point, more personalization to the patient's experience?
So that's at the store level. What we advise. We're more of a buying group of GPO to support and give the necessary tools. I will say that I reflect that based upon our own stores, where the messaging that we have is we treat every patient like their family. And that needs to be the focal point when dealing with a patient that may be English as a second language, may have limited levels of transportation, or even having a fear of communicating to their primary doc or specialist and so forth. So all those are very real challenges we see in the marketplace, where that needs to be emphasized as an independent pharmacy owner. And sometimes that gets lost in translation. You get busy, or the store level gets busy. You take these efficiencies away and you have a very inefficient model at the store, and it's at the sacrifice of who? The patient. So for us, I always take a step back, look at where my lack thereof or efficiencies are, and curtail it so we can have a customer with a positive experience in that environment, especially if they're a new patient and let's just say they're type 2 diabetic, or unfortunately come across a diagnosis of chronic kidney disease, and they're on anywhere from 5 to 18 medications. Then what happens? It's a shock and awe effect, and English is a second language. You're not being able to get to and from the physician or doctor.
Right.
We take a step back and become that liaison. We become that support channel to each individual patient. So that's a big emphasis, or a significant part of what we do, to take a step back and look at what those are.
Robert, thank you for spending time with us here at Assembia and sharing a little bit more about the K&B Pharmacy Associates story. We appreciate this.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Todd.